Hello and welcome to the Incredible Hulk podcast again. Oh, yes, we are back. And we are talking this time about the season three story called On the Line, which of course starred Bill Bixby as David Banner, Lou Ferrigno as the Incredible Hulk, and Jack Colvin as Jack McGee. Co starring Kathleen Lloyd as Randy, Don Reed as Wilson, the fire chief, Bruce Fairbairn as Weaver, Peter Jason as Bennett, and Joe DeRida as Mackie. Incidentally, um, Jason, who played Bennett, I interviewed for this, so please stick around at the end of this cast. You'll be able to hear my interview with Peter. Okay. It was written by Karen Harris and Jill Sherman, but mostly Jill, and it was directed by L.Q. Jones. And I'm joined to talk about this with my friends here. It's none other than Sue and Alex. How are you doing there, both of you?
Just fine, thanks. Rawr.
Great stuff. Right, okay. Would you like to make a change now and again? Would you like to kick this one off, Sue or Alex? You know
Sure.
how it all begins?
I'd love to. I enjoyed this episode as I do all of them. The issue here was about a fire line in some sort of mountain village or mountain town, and it was a forest fire, and it seems like the forest fire they were not able to put out. And David, what was he called, Brown, had been camping there for a couple, 3 days beforehand, and he'd obviously hulked out because he was wrapped in a blanket, topless, and he was not wearing shoes.
Yeah, that usually indicates he's had a bit of a Hulk out, yeah.
Yeah. So apparently he had been angered by something outside of the realm of the episode in question. And anyway, so he was wrangled, shanghaied into helping the fire boss out. He helped serve coffee and bring water to the front line, which I think that they meant drinking water because the airplanes and other tankers and stuff were bringing, you know, fire put out
Yeah, I think
water.
he was. I think he was bringing water down for the guys on the line there, because of all the smoke inhalation.
Yeah, for drinking and
Yeah,
stuff.
dry or coughing, so he would go down there and give them some water and that.
And so he was down there, and he was bringing water, and he was bringing it to this woman who was on the line. Reminded me a bit of my friend who did a lot of smoke jumping in the Rocky Mountains. Worked out of Butte, Montana. Lived in Bozeman, which is where I met her. But worked out of Butte and jumped into all these fires. And she was a burly girl. She was pretty energetic, and when um, you know, it was just amazing to know her.
When
Anyway,
you say when you say jumping into the fire, Sue, what was she just sort of like a game or an adrenaline rush for her to get
no, they
into the
they
fire?
they have parachute jumpers. They have fire
Oh, I see.
jumpers,
I see. Yeah. Yeah.
and I mean, my pastor at Bethel was on the fire team for California Fire, for Cal Fire, which is another super busy fire group. And he said it's like this: you're climbing up a mountain, you're carrying 50 to 100 pounds of stuff on your back, and you're trying to get to the point where you have to lay down a fire line to prevent the fire from moving. And you're just going all day until you get there, and then you start digging, and you're doing the hard physical labor, and then you march on to the very next spot, and you just keep going and going and going, and you really don't ever, you don't go, oh, I give up. You push on and stuff. And so that was really, the way they showed the fire team was true. They just march and march and dig and march and dig and march and dig. And and there were, when David brings the water to this woman on the fire team, she was busy digging and stuff, and a tree falls on him, and there's a guy on the back of a Jeep, and this guy on the back of the Jeep has smoke inhalation. He's fallen down. And so David's put into the line on his spot, and suddenly you see some hands putting down another fire starter.
Yeah, it's like this little device thing, that sort
Yeah.
of sparks and sets a little fire alight. So someone's, deliberately doing it.
Deliberately setting some fires.
Yeah.
And, in about 2008 or 9, maybe it was 2010. No, it was 2008. In California, they arrested 3 or 4 firefighters for setting fires.
Oh,
It's a real deal. I don't know why.
God.
It seems like freaking a nightmare, but yeah.
Oh, so it does happen, yeah.
So it does happen. I couldn't believe it.
There was no fiction there.
And so, I was like, oh my gosh, no, tell me it's not so. And I thought it was, anyway, let's just go on from there. Anyway, this guy
the lady he's talking to, by the way, is Randy. That's her name, Randy.
Yeah.
She's the only female in
And
the group, yeah.
And so they went down in this ravine, and a tree falls on David and cuts him off from Randy, and she climbs up out of the ravine, and he hulks out. Roar! It's his first hulk
right.
out.
He'd been told to bring back Mackie to base camp because Mackie collapsed from the smoke or exhaustion or something.
Right.
So he's driving the Jeep back, and of course the fire's just been, that saboteur has just set the fire there. So he gets out of the Jeep to go, and the fella's, Mackie's strapped in the back with oxygen, and he goes down to, he looks at him and thinks, I better go down and try and get that fire out. So David disappears down the ravine, or whatever you call it, and he finds that device you just mentioned, Sue. It just happened. And then
I didn't see him find the device, but
yeah, he did. He picks it up. It's broken, but he picks it up and he's looking at it, and then he sees Randy in the distance running away. So he's not immediately suspicious, but he's curious as to why she happens to be there as well, And he shouts out to her, but she just keeps running, So all of it looks kind of suspect,
Yep.
And that's when the tree falls on him. That's alight, and he gets set alight a bit on his back, and he hulks out then. Yeah.
And his hair's on fire, and
his shirt's on fire in his hands, and
shirt's is fire.
Trying to put himself out, and off he goes. And so this poor old Mackie in the back there, it's like 1 minute saw David run down there, next minute you see the Hulk come up.
Yep. And he's on oxygen, and anyway, he was, they were cut off, and so he had to push him through a tree that had just, even later on in that scene had fallen down in front of the Jeep. And so the Hulk pushed the Jeep through the burning tree, down the road a piece, and then after he was done, he actually went around to the front to the Jeep hauler.
Yeah.
It looks like a wishbone.
Yeah, it's
And
like a tower, like you would tow the thing, put a rope in it and tow the vehicle, isn't it? A little bit like that.
yeah, the Jeep hauler. Anyway, and he pulls it down, flattens it out, and gets in front of it and starts pulling. And so he pulls him even further down the road
Yeah,
till they're all out of danger. And
that's right. Yeah, yeah.
then David goes to
Oh yeah,
settle
and he
down.
pulls Mackie's straps off as well as the whole. He unbuckles him, Mackie.
Yep.
So someone obviously got collected him at some point.
Yep.
The Hulk runs off. Meanwhile, of course, before that happened, McGee's on the scene because he has got word that there was a Hulk sighting 3 days ago before the fire started, and so that
then
ties
he
in with
also heard
yeah.
he also heard tell that there was didn't he hear that the Hulk had just been seen up in the camp, so that's why he volunteered to go up in the camp.
No, I don't think so. I think it may have been near there. Maybe he's, I'm not sure what he's thinking exactly, but he said he wants to get into that camp to ask them questions about whether they knew anything about a sighting there. I think the sighting was probably might have been close to there, when the Hulk ran out. I don't know, but because David got picked up somewhere along there, didn't he? Brought into camp.
Yep.
So it must have been fairly nearby. But he wants to get in there, and so he's going to pose as one of the voluntary firefighters to get in, like helping out.
Yep. Here's Alex.
Yeah, it's a little slower, this episode. I guess they were really trying to be as realistic as possible. I didn't find this too interesting story-wise. But yeah, they have covered in more than a few documentaries and other things, unfortunately. If you have a very stressful job, a small percentage, like 1 to 5%, seem to sort of originally work for the good and then somehow change and work for the bad or play both sides. And I guess that's why you need, somebody to sort of supervise them. Obviously, in this story, the perpetrator was given a little too much power and started blaming everybody or making everybody work harder, like David, and I forgot the woman's name. But obviously, when this was made in 78 or 79, I'm sure there probably wasn't even 3% of women firefighters or women police officers. And we know now that's improved a lot. L.Q. Jones is a character actor, and he's dabbled quite a bit, and he was also in the show as well as an actor. But he's also known for being in a lot of movies and TV shows. Another one that was pretty famous was he was sort of the bad guy from Las Vegas that was endorsing the quote-unquote juiced-in, grandfathered-in workers of Las Vegas. He was in the movie Casino in full mustache and cowboy garb. And he's in that movie. He sort of helps bring De Niro's character down for firing one of his relatives by marriage. So he's always been a character actor. He's always been sort of a good old boy, but he's, depending on what role you see him in, he can be very colloquial and he can be very mean spirited in a very polite way, like he was in Casino. But it's kind of funny that he directed this episode, and it's kind of funny how they've mentioned that I guess he had to do over 100 pages of directing for this story, which I guess is pretty good. I mean, that's a lot of work if you really think about
for
it.
a 60-minute show.
Well, no, but I'm saying over 30 to 100 pages of, and that's assuming that they wrote it the long way with everybody having to do every single movement. I don't know how much ad-libbing.
It's like 1 page per minute.
Right. So
100 pages, that's so much more extra.
Wow.
Yeah, I heard that. One trivia thing about this story, which I was amazed by, was that, and then again, it depends how many things are. It might not all be done. It might not all be dialogue. It could be just directions. So it's going to be longer in page when you're explaining stuff. Like you stand there and this happens here, and it's all visual. But apparently, he directed 28 pages of script in one go. Yeah. With a free camera setup, and they just recorded from start to finish without stopping.
Yeah.
Wow,
sounds pretty. I've never heard of that happen before. It probably has.
That's old-timey TV.
But that's like proper, full on. It has to be really worked out to the letter beforehand, so they can keep it smooth. And they don't get really rehearsal time on set.
Well, yeah, I mean, again, it depends, because some scripts you see and also depending on whether it's, single space or double space or whatever.
No, it's 1 page per
okay, well,
per minute.
Some list like 2 people, some list like 3 people, some list like 2 people talking, and then the doorbell rings or whatever else is going on.
Yeah, I know.
So
it's 1 page per.
Right. So
unless you have special effects up the wazoo.
Yeah, generally a lot of
this one did.
I imagine the butler.
I mean, all the burn was special effects.
Yeah, there was practical effects with gas jets or gas pumps underneath the tree, hidden behind the trees, so that the flames would shoot up on these pipes. They use all those sort of things.
Wow.
It had to be well controlled. Obviously, they're in a controlled set. So it had to be very well managed how they did that,
Well,
regardless of that, it was a big setup because there was an awful lot happening. It must have been the action sequences near the end, I would think, that when this all happened.
Well, I mean, again, sometimes I will watch, especially if it's a TV show or if it's a movie, that they'll talk about how many units they had, how many cameras they had, who was responsible. And then they also have admitted that of course, people don't realize this because you're not there. The scenes are shot out of order. So, one day they might do outside shooting, another day they might do indoor shooting and such. So people don't realize that just because you see a finished product, unless it's live, you don't know how many cuts, they've had, how many scenes they've had to move around and things like that. Yeah. That even that, there's one woman or a number of people that only work with certain directors because they know what they want. And then they've admitted on the DVD, okay, this part I had to splice back in or whatever.
Yeah. But in the story here, David, Weaver, the young guy, isn't happy knowing that that someone is on their turf, deliberately setting fires, and he's getting really wound up over it all.
And he doesn't like the fact that Wilson is the leader. He's like, it could have been anybody from our school, anybody from our social group. What is this guy doing here?
Sort of local hero in the city. As a fire, chief, and he was recognised as a hero, and then being brought down there has obviously knocked his nose out of joint. I didn't like David being there either. He didn't like who he was hiring.
He thought that David was the one who was setting the fires. He was bound and determined to get David up on the fire line because he's like, at least he'll have to fight the fires that he sets then.
Yeah, and actually, I know a couple of times when David is talking with Randy, and she seems so impassioned by her job, doesn't she? She likes the real thrill of it, of the the fire and all that. She explains that she's a bit of an outsider, a bit like him, really. Um,
Yeah.
uh, so it's slight contrast there, or
Well, they
parallel.
did. The other thing is like, especially for women on the fire lines, it was a lonely job. My friend used to say that it was that the only time that she really felt, socially active was when she came back to Bozeman, because otherwise it was so lonesome and so, hard on the reality. So anyway, that's also true.
After that first Hulk out, when he's with Mackie, the guy on the jeep, and David sort of come back to normal again, he returns to camp, and Wilson confronts him, and he's not letting him go. He's suspicious of him. So Wilson's kind of pointing the finger at David. He says that
Oh yeah.
Mackie may have been had a bit too much oxygen when it came to the Hulk, but he does remember you going down there, and then 10 seconds later this fire started, and he thinks that you set the fires, And David says, and he says, how am I going to explain this? Sorry, Wilson says, if you try and leave, I'll call the police, and this kind of thing. So he's kind of stuck there, and he has to help out for a few more days. After he leaves, Randy arrives, and again he says, look, I didn't mention you, I didn't say that you were down there as well. She explains that she went to get help when he shouted at her, called her. So she explains that she's been, when she was younger, she was a tomboy, and she was chasing fire engines rather than chasing boys, effectively.
Yep.
So all her girlfriends, were doing the latest fashions and stuff, while she was out chasing fire trucks and things like that, which is rather good. Now all of these new volunteers arrive, guys, and including Jack McGee.
There's the reporter.
There he is, and Bennett and Weaver.
In a red shirt and a red scarf.
Yeah, he talk about standing out. Yeah, he stands out amongst all of them, doesn't he? Yeah. Bennett and Weaver are talking, and so as you said earlier, Sue, Weaver believes that David is setting the fires, and they're going to try and trap him in his own, or hoist him in his own petard, and say, "All right, let's do a trap on him, and let's see how he likes to fight the fires that he's setting." So they spring a little, a ruse. Wilson and Randy have a brief moment where they're sitting together talking. She's looking out at a fire in the distance and saying how beautiful it looks, and all that, and he kind of reveals a little bit, Wilson, saying like it's a need for him to fight fires, to feel wanted, and stuff like that. We just get a little bit of a feeling there. And as you know, Weaver and Bennett set David up, saying that Randy is in trouble. Of course, he finds out when he goes down there she's fine, and he realizes what's happened. They've dropped him in it and making him pay for what they think he did, which he didn't do anything. So he has to help out fighting the fire. And Randy,
so then they find out that this one guy is down at the bottom of this hill, and his girlfriend is down even further down in the ravine at the Fall River Lake or something like that.
Yes, yeah, that's right. She's down below this kind of ridge, isn't she? Like over this drop.
Yeah.
And I think she's injured, so she can't really. She's not mobile, I think she's injured her leg or something. So he calls Randy for help, and so she proceeds up there, and McGee's around there, by the way. And we need to get that moment again where they see one another.
Yeah.
McGee's
digging away, and David brings him some water, and and David was gonna pull down his bandana, his mask, and but then he sees McGee, and he pulls it back up and adjusts it.
Just avoids eye contact long enough. So he gets away with it on that occasion.
Uh-huh.
And then he gets conveniently called away anyway to get help. So so Randy says, if you can't come with us, make sure you tell the men that I'm with these people who need help at Falls Lake. So she goes off, and he waits behind, and David calls for help, and of course Wilson and Weaver come to his aid. They head off to Falls Lake because McGee tells them where to go, and this is when we see the reveal, as it were, as to who's been starting these fires, because it's revealed that it's Wilson that's doing it, because he mentions that about this big water tank which is above them on the ridge or the mountain bit.
Oh, because the ridge has started on fire.
Yeah, that's right, and
they're really basically trapped.
They're trapped down there. Yeah. It's sealing their exit.
Randy and the two hikers or whatever, campers, are trapped by the wall of flames, and so David's like, you should use that explosives that you have, but Weaver gets the clue who's really doing this, and so he takes it out of his little tin and he tries to set it, but Weaver starts kicking his butt, and so the remote detonator is crushed. So then they were like, what are we gonna do? We gotta get this open, and Weaver and David go fight some more.
Yeah, Weaver tells them to go and take cover behind the rocks, because he has to now, because that thing's been damaged, he has to now activate it by hand rather than remote control. So in a sense, he's putting his life in the line there to detonate the thing. He won't have time to get out.
Yep.
So as they're trying to race back to help him when they've discovered this, one of these planes that's been going across several times drops tons of water down, and it knocks them off their feet, and they go hurtling backwards over these pipes. And of course, the eyes are there, so the eyes have it.
Rawr.
And there he is again.
Yay! Our hero.
And he comes up and he does a great little heroic trick here.
Yeah. He pulls the guy out of the pipe, and then he takes the pipe and he smashes the water tank, the what's it called?
What do you call those things?
Water tower.
Water tower, that's it. Yeah.
And he smashes it, and it opens up, and it starts pouring water down and down and down until finally it's pouring down the ravine and over that one ridge where those guys are cowering because of the fire. And Randy hadn't taken off, even though she could. She's still with them, and so all three of those guys, get drenched.
They get drenched, yeah. But they get saved as well, ultimately. So,
Yeah.
It was worth it in the end. It cut the fire out around them. So they're now safe to be sort of pulled up out of there and, hoisted out or whatever at some point.
And because all the explosive detonators or whatever have been destroyed, they finally get all that whole acres and acres of wildfires out.
Yeah, and there won't be any more trouble like that unless it's just a completely natural cause next time. But at least it won't be due to any sabotage,
Yeah. Yep.
And
Arson amongst firefighters does happen.
yeah, which I was really quite stunned by, actually. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's all those people that are out in the camp. Basically, I don't know what happens to them, but basically Randy and David are trucking off and then Randy turns around and goes the other way, and David takes off on his own.
Yeah, Randy says to David just before he leaves that Wilson doctors apparently had kind of explained what this kind of condition is, where it's like the need to be in the danger line, and therefore if the danger is not presenting itself, they had to create it themselves. So they would always feel like heroic and all this. So he's fighting fires that he caused himself because there wasn't enough natural ones to go around. So there's some kind of condition there, mental condition, I guess, where he felt the need to do that,
Okay, but the problem was that 1 year that one person was setting fires in California. I mean, pretty much all the little towns burned up. And so, arresting that person was absolutely, completely necessary, key to the, ongoing life in far northern California. I mean, I just remember just thick smoke all the time that summer, and hearing about the arrest and then, the angry outcry of the citizens who had been hurt by this person.
Oh, of course.
So Wilson is a stinker.
Yeah, he must have been called to account for doing that, because he could have, as I said, killed people by doing that.
And property damage, I mean,
yeah,
billions of dollars of property damage can happen.
Yeah.
Especially, as close to the fire in California was really close to country star Merle Haggard's ranch. And he had a really nice ranch and a recording studio there. So that would have been like, major cost.
Yeah, absolutely. That could have done untold damage like that if it got, if they hadn't maintained it. But that was On the Line, ladies and gentlemen.
Rawr.
So, in conclusion, guys, what did you think of this one?
I liked it. It was great. I love how close, David and McGee got again, and I love seeing McGee doing physical labor. That was fun.
Yeah, he's not very good at it, is he?
Nope. Bit rubbish at it, actually.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, unfortunately, even though this is part of in a way, I don't know if people realize this, but there was a lot of changes in the 70s, not only feminism and a new version of it, and, trying to show gritty and realism. That's why I laugh, because a lot of the movies in the 70s were realistic when you compare it to the decade before. And, maybe they didn't show a lot of women firefighters or women cops, but they did on a lot of TV shows as well. And the other, issue of, either playing both sides of the team or switching teams, just like that Wilson guy that was supposed to prevent the fires, and he's actually, starting and stopping them at the same time. Instead of, he probably should retire. But I mean, there was a lot of stuff that if you really look at it, if you really do research, there was a lot of TV series and movies that they were trying to be, gritty. So I laugh when I hear, everything's gritty now. Well, that depends. That depends. It depends on what era, what decade, what directors, things like that. And, again, the Hulk did try to be realistic. Maybe a little too realistic in this episode. But at least they were trying, and at least they, really did put in an effort. And that's one thing that you have to give credit to the Incredible Hulk for, and I think that's why it's still popular today, is that it's pretty realistic considering all the competition that's come after it. It's pretty realistic. They didn't do a lot with, and they did more than they should have for the budget that they had. And it's still very down to earth, and I think that's part of the reason why it's still popular today.
Yeah, I would agree on that. Yeah. So that was it, guys. So thank you both so much for joining me, Alex and Sue. It's always a pleasure.
Yeah, we love it.
And please stick around, guys, as I said earlier on, because the actor who played Bennett in this, Peter Jason, I interviewed recently, and you can hear that after we say our little goodbyes here. So yeah,
it's great.
It's good. It's good. So yeah, please stick around for that in a moment. Until then, guys, whatever you do not Hulk out.
Rawr.
Of course, we were talking earlier about the season 3 story On the Line, and I'm very happy to have an actor with me who was in that story. He played Bennett, and we're going to find out a little bit about him and about that episode as well, from his memories and so on, and other work he's done. So I'd like to welcome, please, Peter Jason to the show. How are you, Peter?
Well, thanks for asking. I'm very well, still alive, still working out here in sunny Hollywood.
Yeah.
And what's it like over there, Frank?
Okay at the moment. Pretty good. Pretty mild, actually, for this time of year.
I was over there last year doing Jurassic World.
Oh, yeah. That was some of that was shot here. Was that at Pinewood?
Pinewood, yeah. They put me up at a place called Stoke Park. I don't know if you know it. I think it's a 1,400-year-old castle. Absolutely gorgeous place. Jeff Goldblum and I were there with our wives, and I got to play on grass tennis courts for the first time in my life, which was a blast.
Sounds nice. Yeah.
Yeah, I had a terrific time.
How long were you over for?
2 weeks is all I went, and then my wife and I did a little tour of Europe for another 6 weeks. But unforgettable. My first time on a grass tennis court, and it was really, really great.
I bet it was. Yeah. That must have been a really lovely experience. Yeah. But let's go back a wee bit, Peter, and ask you, when did you realise that you wanted to pursue life as an actor?
Oh, back, well, I think I was a ham from the get-go, but not until my parents were teachers. My dad was a PE teacher, physical education teacher, and so he brought all the equipment home, and all 5 of the kids in our family, Pat, Pete, Pug, Peg, and Pam, we were very adept at all sports because he would bring the equipment home and play with us every day. So I was like the best athlete in school for many years, up until like they got really big. And but all through like high school, and I love sports. And I thought I was going to go either into sports, and my other forte was mathematics. So I thought I was either going to be an engineer or a professional athlete. Those were my dreams early on, until this very cute girl, Jeannie Brubaker, invited me to audition for the high school play, and I only did it because I thought I'd be able to get close to her every night at rehearsal. And I went in. I got the part of the lead in the play, and on opening night, when the audience exploded into applause when I walked out for my curtain call, I went, "Ooh, I like this."
This is interesting, yeah.
And that snapped my mind around, and I became obsessed with the acting bug from that moment on. So it was 1980, December 2nd, 1981. No, 1961.
61.
I graduated in 62, so that was in November 2nd, 1961 is when I was bit by the bug.
Yeah.
And I've never been cured.
What was your first television role? Your first sort of talking part?
Well, the first TV show I ever did that I got paid for was a show. Actually, my first TV show I didn't get paid for. I was student body president of my local college, and Orange Coast College, and they had a local TV show out here called Agriculture USA, and Bill Stearns was the MC, and each week he would have several student body presidents from several schools in the Southern California area on, and he'd have a specialist in the subject of farming.
Yeah.
And we'd ask the authority a couple of questions, and he'd answer it. So it was like kind of a how-to show. And our specialist the week I was on was bees and honey, and we got to ask him a couple of questions about. They were already written out for us, of course, about bees and honey. And in the process, Bill Stearns, the moderator, would ask us what we wanted to do with our lives. And I probably said I wanted to be an actor. And he, after the show, came to me and he said, "Was that true? Do you really want to be an actor?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "My sister runs a theater in New Hampshire called the Peterborough Playhouse. And so they're looking for young people." And so I hitchhiked from Newport Beach, California to Peterborough, New Hampshire that summer and started my career as a professional actor. But that was the first TV show I did, but I didn't get paid for it. The first TV show I did that I got paid for and joined the union was a show called The Red Skelton Show. And it was a big hit show over here, and he played all these different characters. The one I did, he was playing a little boy with a little bow tie and ribbons and a hat and a big sucker and short pants, and he was skipping on a cruise ship. And I'm a newlywed couple with my wife, my new bride, and he runs into us on the deck, and we exchange a few words, and he has a couple of jokes, and that was it. But that was a blast. That was my first TV show.
So was there just a little tiny millisecond of a thought when you did that little show about the honey and everything, and the guy says, "What would you like to do? When you grow up?"
No, I didn't even pay any attention to the camera. I was so caught up in my own little world of I'm on TV. Good. My ego was probably blown out of proportion a little bit in those days.
But when he asked you, what would you like to be? Did you at any point say you wanted to be a beekeeper? I think I would have done that. Yeah.
No, I should have said that. I am a beekeeper. I told him, went right into. He said, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" And I went, "I want to be an actor."
Yeah.
So.
And indeed, he did. Yeah. And you still are.
Well, I've never had to work for a living, I like to say. I played for the first 18 years of my life, 17 years of my life in sports. And then I played for the next, I'm 70, going to be 75 here in July. So for the rest of that time, I've never had to be a taxi driver or a waiter or anything else. I've been very lucky. I've always managed to find work. Or play, as we call it.
Were there any jobs that you did prior to going into acting that you can tell us about, Peter? Sort of regular jobs, I mean.
Prior to going into acting, did I do jobs?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I was a recreation director in Newport Beach. I taught tennis. I ran a playground in the afternoon. I had 50, 60 kids every day from 3 to 6. 5 days a week, and then I umpired Little League baseball, and I had another job. Oh yeah, I used to sweep out the Balboa Theater down in Newport Beach. That was one of my jobs.
Yeah.
Did I have any other jobs before acting? Oh yeah, I worked at the Hot Dog on a Stick place at the Fun Zone down in Newport Beach in Balboa. There's a little kind of carnival area that I got to work making hot dogs on a stick. But no, as soon as I became 18 and started acting, that's all I did.
That's it, yeah.
I was very lucky. I worked with repertory theaters at the beginning. We went to different parts of the country, and then I got very lucky. My first job, my first movie, I got to die in John Wayne's arms, Rio Lobo, and I had some ups and downs as far as my ego, and thinking I'd do a job, and all of a sudden I thought I was the greatest. I started telling everybody I was. Nothing will slow you down getting a job than your ego stepping on your on your path to success. But it was pretty. I've been very lucky, very very lucky. I've had a continual career. There's several directors that have hired me again and again, and that's good. I'm pretty good at helping create the family, holding the family together. Working for the thing rather than look at me. It's look at us.
I got you. Yeah. Team thing. Yeah.
So I'm a team player.
A team player. That's where you got that from. Probably got that from your sporting background as well. I think. Yeah.
Maybe
that trickled on.
It's a positive way to live, I think. Helping each other.
I think so. Yeah, definitely.
I think we need more of it.
Oh yeah, you can't get enough of it, really. I don't think. There was a couple of. You did an awful lot of television and stuff, and films, obviously. I'm just picking out a couple of the TV that you did prior to the Hulk. You did Land of the Giants and Hawaii Five-0, to name two.
Yeah.
What do you remember about those? Was there any particular nice moments for you in them?
I remember the Land of the Giants because Don Matheson and his wife, Diana Lund, they were the stars, and both of them passed away here in the last couple of years. But their daughter, Michelle Matheson, is still a friend of mine and plays tennis with me. And but while I was doing the show, she wasn't yet born, and I remember that the little people were, you didn't really get to work with them because, well, they're teeny, and it's a different set. So I was one of the giants with Whit Bissell, my boss, and I think we were working construction site, and I caught one of them. I got one of the little murderers, I have to say. And they hand you a little mechanism that you hold in your fist, and these two little kicking legs, mechanical legs, are kicking out under your hand. It's very, very funny and disconcerting to play to. But and then when you're talking to them, they put a little pencil in front of you, and you talk to the pencil. You talk to the little pencil, and it was so strange. So strange, but I thoroughly enjoyed doing that show. That was really fun.
Did you get to see the sets for the little people, because they had to make everything extra huge?
Oh yeah, they're giant pieces of chairs and tables. And
yeah, that must have been great.
They're just huge, and it's really a fun set. That was over at 20th Century Fox.
Yeah.
Great sound stage. Two whole sides, one for the giants and one for the little people.
Blimey. Yeah.
What was the other TV show?
Hawaii Five-0.
Hawaii Five-0.
Yeah,
that was a blast to do. The funniest thing about that was, in those days, you flew to Hawaii, which was great, and you landed on the tarmac, and as I walked out of the plane, there were three Hawaiian girls, beautiful Hawaiian girls in outfits, and when they greeted you, the press was there with the snapping flash bulbs, and either Jack Lord or James, I forget his name, his partner, Helen Hayes' son. What's his name? Anyway.
I know exactly. Yeah, I know who you mean. I can't think of his surname either.
James MacArthur, I believe.
That's James MacArthur. Yeah.
And he was there the day I arrived. I came down the gangplank, and these three beautiful girls, the Hawaiian girls, and James MacArthur meet me. They put three lays over my head. I'm holding my suitcase, right? And I put the suitcase down. I stand up. They put three lays on my head, snap a bunch of pictures, and instantly they disappear. And I'm standing all alone on the tarmac, like an idiot with three lays around my neck, and nobody even looking at me. So I guess that was just for the local papers. The guest star is arriving. They take the picture, then they leave.
God.
So I had to go out. I pick up my bag and I go out and get in a cab and go to the Kahala Hilton where we were staying at the time, and went up to the dolphin pool and had a cocktail. You know,
that wasn't a bad introduction, really, Peter, was it?
that was my arrival at Hawaii 5-0. The show I thoroughly enjoyed.
Yeah,
it was with Joy Bang was the name of the girl, who was absolutely adorable and quite a good actress. I don't think she's alive anymore. I think she died quite young. I'm not sure, but I believe so. And Michael Anderson was my brother, and we got along famously. I played a guy who comes back from like the My Lai incident and from Vietnam, and it opens with me killing myself, but my brother's, it opens with me with a gun in my mouth, and my brother comes in, and he says, "Stop," you know, and he stops me from killing myself and talks me off the ledge, and then he takes the gun and he leaves, and then I immediately open the window and I jump out and commit suicide. Well, they think it's a suicide. They think my brother pushed me out, but the CIA is spying on me because I'm one of the guys who came back from the My Lai incident. So they've got the room bugged, and they know what really happened, that I actually committed suicide, but they make Jack Lord find out about it at the end.
Oh, yeah.
So I have two clips, one at the beginning and one at the end. So you see the real story and the fake story.
Ah, right. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was very controversial at the time. In fact, it was scheduled to go on a certain date. Let's say it was April the 15th, and that date came along, and they preempted the show with a rerun and didn't show it for a year because the My Lai incident was still kind of, it was right after Vietnam, and it was still a little hot topic, so they didn't want to air it.
Yes, he wouldn't have been.
They slipped it in about 6 months later, trying to let the publicity die down, I guess. But it was one of my favorite shows that I did. I really liked doing it. I loved the character. It was very dark, and it was a beautiful crying scene I got to do with my brother. You know.
Yeah. It's always good to have
very
the
dramatic
layers to a character. Yeah.
I don't usually get to play those guys. I usually play the authority figures, you know.
Yeah.
So
or the sort of hard-edged kind of guys or something. Yeah.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I'm too loud. Unfortunately, I'm too loud. we can't see him vulnerable because he's too loud.
He's too loud. Now, you went on, of course, to do the episode we were speaking about called On the Line, from Series 3 of The Incredible Hulk. How did you get that part, Peter? Was it just a regular audition that you did, or?
Well, it was, regular audition. I got it through regular audition. I went in, and the director, wonderful actor.
I have got it here.
L.Q. Jones.
L.Q. Jones, that's right.
Jones.
Yeah.
L.Q. Jones, who was in the Wild Bunch.
Ah.
He was one of the guys in the Wild Bunch. He was a wonderful actor, been around forever, and had done marvelous things. LQ was at the audition, and I think I auditioned twice, and I got the job. And he did something I've never experienced either before or since. The show started shooting on a Monday. On Thursday or Friday before the show started, I got a call from him personally saying, would I be interested in coming by his house over the weekend with the other members of the cast and rehearsing in advance? Because we didn't have enough time to do this show.
Yeah.
Because it was a big show. It had a huge scene in it, and he wanted to rehearse it. And I did. I said, sure. And we all were there. And we went to his house, and his wife made lunch for everybody, and we all started rehearsing this gigantic scene. And I don't even remember what the scene was about, to tell you the truth. But we spent the whole day there at his house over in Hollywood, and it was a terrific day. And what happened was, on Monday when we showed up to work, we all knew each other. We were all friends, you know. So it brought the whole company together instantly. Instead of having to do all that the first day of work, we already did it.
Yeah,
so,
and that's very rare as well, Peter, isn't it?
Very rare.
Very
I don't
rare.
think I've ever done that before.
Yeah.
I've rehearsed, John Carpenter will rehearse in advance, and some other directors have rehearsed in advance, but I've never gone to the guy's house at home and come in and had lunch with his wife and turned it into kind of a family operation. That was really sweet and really warm and very positive, very, very positive. But he's an actor. He comes from that world of trying to create a family, you know?
Yeah.
And so that was, I love that. I love that when I see that. That's why we all went into it, you know? That's why we all went into the business, to keep creating that family that's where the joy comes from.
You may, other than LQ, it sounds like great how he got you to get all together like that, because that is very unique. Of the supporting cast, Peter, in it, what do you remember about working with those, like Kathleen Lloyd, Don Reed, and Bruce Fairburn, people like that?
Well, you know, I remember liking everybody. I believe Kathleen had worked with Brando at some point, either before or after that show. I'm not sure when they shot Missouri Breaks, but I think she did. She worked with Jack Nicholson and Marlon Brando. It must have been after that, but she was striking and quite beautiful, as I recall. Bruce I'd worked with, I think, a couple of times. But there was another guy on that show who was one of the Three Stooges. I'm not sure if he was Larry or Curly or Moe, but his name was Joe. Gosh, I forget his name. He was a replacement of the Three Stooges. I think one of them died, and he replaced him. Joe. Gosh, it starts with an R. I think Ruda. Joe Ruda. Is that right?
Right.
I think that might be it.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, and he would tell stories about doing Three Stooges.
Three Stooges. Yeah.
I spent a lot of time with him. A lot of the lunches with him. But like I mentioned before we started the show here today, the strangest thing that happened was that the tour bus that would come by on the Universal lot would stop and watch us filming, which they do. They pay to climb on the tour. They go around all of Universal lot. And in the early days, they would have to stop. Their red light would go on, and the bus would stop while action was happening on the set. And then the set, they'd go cut, and then the bus would continue on up to the set and then move off the set. Well, that was the first show I ever worked at Universal where the action stopped for the bus to come by because the tour was making more money than the shows, which was quite strange. All of a sudden you're acting and go, oh, cut, 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 cut. a bus is coming. And then the bus would come up, we'd all wave, and the bus would go by, and then we'd, all right, and action. We'd go back to what we were doing. It was ridiculous. And it was kind of difficult on our set because we were fighting fires. And it was a huge, big fire scene where all the special effects guys had lines running at all these dead trees and dead, where they had actual fire coming out of it that you could turn on and off to make it look like a fire. And so it was quite a dangerous set, and not in the sense that any of us were in real danger, but but it was physically dangerous. We're working outside, we're working with shovels and firefighters, and none of us are firefighters. We're all actors, so it was dangerous for us.
Yeah.
And anytime you're working around fire, it's got to be dangerous.
Oh yeah, yeah. We really have to be careful and mindful. They have to have a lot of people on board, on standby there in case of any accidents.
But everyone was paying attention all the time, and I'm not exactly sure of the story anymore because it's been so long since I've seen that. But I'm sure at some point the Incredible Hulk exploded into Hulkdom and saved the day, right?
Oh yeah, he did. Yeah. There was a huge tank. There's prop that they had, like a huge water tank that was up on this mountain, and he splits it open, and it all.
And we saved the day. Yeah.
It comes over like a waterfall, right? And lands on the people underneath that are trapped down below and stuff.
Yeah.
Puts the fire out. Most of it anyway. So yeah, he saves the day that way. Yeah. But
Bill Bixby.
Yes, indeed. I want to ask you about Bill. Yeah.
He was a sweetheart. He was a sweetheart to everybody. Yeah, we really liked him. I didn't get to hang out with Lou Ferrigno much, but kind of afraid to stand next to him.
Yeah, Lou wasn't in the same scenes as you, was he? There was different scenes shot. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you might have seen him on set, possibly. I don't know, in makeup.
I did.
Maybe.
I saw him on set.
Yeah.
But he pretty much works alone, I think.
Yeah, I think so. For the most, well, apart from the actors he's obviously interacting with in the scene, but
a lot of special effects stuff happening there. But he wasn't around when the tour bus came by. I'll tell you that. They were all looking.
They all wanted to see him.
Where's the Incredible Hulk?
Yeah.
He hasn't exploded his pants yet. He hasn't. He hasn't ripped his shirt up yet. He's puffing up. Look out!
Yeah, he's there. Yeah. So Bill, I've heard from many people that Bill was really, very welcoming to guest cast and people like that when they worked on it.
Very, very accepting of the new people on the set. If you're a guest shot, always came up, welcomed them to the set. Thank you for doing our show. And you as a guest star, you appreciate that because not all of them do that.
That's true.
I'll tell you.
Yeah.
They will remain nameless because I hate to promote people I don't like. So, but Bill wasn't one of those. Bill was very accepting and very fatherly. Very nice to be around.
Now, I read this recently, Peter, about the filming. You were talking about LQ earlier on, the director. Is this true? Because it's out there. I'm assuming it's true. But this was really interesting what I read. Apparently, there was 28, that was obviously that long scene you're talking about. There was 28 pages of script that was shot in one go involving three cameras. Were you involved in that? Do you remember anything about that?
Yeah, I believe that's the one we rehearsed at his house.
Yeah, it must be. Yeah.
Yeah,
that's a huge undertaking. 28 pages of script. Wow.
That's huge.
Yeah.
I remember when we were doing Amazing Stories with Steven Spielberg directing a show called The Mission. It was the first one. Kevin Costner was the star, and I was the commander. And there was an opening shot on that they spent the entire day where the camera would start on a window of the plane and then went inside the plane and then came down the plane and then followed outside the plane one of the people one of the members of the crew down the stairs out, and you saw in a jeep, and then it went on and on and on and on, and they shot all day long with little midget model planes way off in the background, like looking like, and it was amazing. It was absolutely amazing to see. And then when you saw it on TV, it like happened in 2 seconds, and you went, "What's the point?" You know?
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
But it took forever to do, and I don't remember very well the Hulk being 23 pages, but I'm sure it was, if you say it was. But I do remember rehearsing it in advance because it was such a big-ass scene, and it was going to take a lot of time to direct. 23 pages, that's a lot.
Seems like and it was all and apparently shot in one go. Almost like a play, you know, live.
Yeah.
Just right through,
I
no
love
stopping,
stuff.
you know.
So that takes a lot of rehearsal
And a free camera setup for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, unfortunately my brain is old, and there's other stuff that happened that pushed that out of the way. But I'm sure it happened, and it was probably fun.
Yeah, I think it was. I think it was possibly towards the end of the episode when the tension was building up. Everything was happening at once. You know, the build up to the end of the episode. I imagine that's what that bit was. I'm not sure.
Or maybe we were just over time and over budget, and they shot it in one just to get it finished.
It's possible, yeah, but it's quite unusual. I've never really heard of it being done like that before. You know, to that extent. That's quite an undertaking, really.
Well, it could have been the big fire scene on the hillside too.
Possibly.
Because in description and script, it could have been 20 pages, you know.
Yeah.
And then in actual doing it, happened in 5 minutes on film. But to write it all out, you know, might have taken 20 pages.
Yeah, and the technical setup for it could have taken hours to do, and everything else, you know. Yeah. But yeah, so that was, I thought that was intriguing. That.
Yeah, it is intriguing. I'd love to know more about it.
That's literally all I know. That's literally all that was said about it that I read. It's just about that bit, and
yeah,
it didn't go into any real detail as to what they shot or anything like that. You know, which is unfortunate. But that's really all I've got. You went on to work with one of my favourite directors, John Carpenter. John Carpenter. No less than...
I was just with him yesterday.
Ah, brilliant. No less than 5 times on film.
Oh no, I think I've done like 7 or 8 movies with John.
7 or 8? I'm miscalculating. Sorry, Peter, about that.
I think we did. Let me see. Prince of Darkness was my first one. Then maybe They Live, then Village of the Damned, Body Bags, and Ghosts of Mars, and In the Mouth of Madness, and I can't really remember them all right now, but how many's that?
I think that was, I think that's what I had. I had Prince of Darkness,
yeah.
They Live, In the Mouth of Madness, Village of the Damned, and Ghosts.
Oh, Village of the Damned, I forgot that one.
And Ghosts of Mars.
And Body Bags.
Body Bags, but was that a television anthology?
Body Bags?
Yeah.
Maybe.
I think it was like a little mini-series, anthology or something, I think it was.
Oh, yeah. That was 3 different... yeah, I guess that was TV.
Yeah. But you've been a regular, though. That's for sure. You know?
Yeah, John's my guy.
Yeah.
John's one of my guys. I got John and Walter Hill and Frank Marshall. Those 3 guys that put me to over 20 movies.
Wow. And of all the...
14 with Walter Hill. I thought it was 7 or 8 with John Carpenter, and 5 or 6 with Frank Marshall.
Amazing. Now, of all the films you've done with John Carpenter, Peter, Is there any particular role in those that you were very happy with and fond of? Or the experience?
We're working with John? Well,
yeah.
I always like working with John. There's a couple of favorites. Of course, Village of the Damned, I think, might have been my favorite movie with him because while we were on that movie, we shot it on location up in Inverness, California, which is in Marin County, up near the Lucasfilms, where Lucas has his Skywalker Ranch.
Oh yeah.
In fact, we had dailies every day at the ranch because that's one of the only places up there that has a facility with projectors and everything to look at dailies. But on that particular movie, John, like early on, I was there on day one, and I mentioned to John, I said, John, I think I'd like to produce. I think I could be a good producer. Don't you? I think I could, because I like working with people and I like solving problems. I think I'd be a good producer. He said, really? You want to be a producer? I said, yeah, I think I do. And he said, well, okay, let's try you out on this movie. He said, how many days you working this week? I said, well, I'm working on Thursday. He said, okay, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday, you're assistant caterer. I said, what? He said, yeah, you're assistant caterer. And so I was over there cooking steaks for the extras, and then I'm cleaning up afterwards and wiping the tables and taking out the trash. And the next week, he says, how many days you are? I said, I'm working on Wednesday and Friday. Okay, well, Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday, you're a dailies driver. And I'm driving the dailies from the set all the way to Oakland, and I'm racing them back to the Skywalker Ranch so they can see them on time. And the plane's late, then I'm late, and everyone's mad at me. And on the next week, I was a couple days. I was a second unit set PA, and then I was an office PA. And one day, I'm taking the laundry of all the cinematographers over to be done and brought back to their rooms because they don't have any time for it. And another day, I'm working with Sandy. And one day, 1 week, I was. After everyone left, I was working with the camera and Sandy Carpenter, who is John's wife and producer of the show, working on the beauty shots of all the area and spending a week doing that. I was actually chasing not caribous, one of those, not elk maybe. Yeah, elk. I was chasing elk, trying to make them run towards the camera. The stunt man, Jeff Amata, and I are sneaking around behind the herd to make them move in a certain direction so we can get the shot. And of course that was ridiculous. But every day I'm working on a different area he had me working everything from ordering makeup for the makeup department to everything. And dealing with the police. We had a problem with one of the neighbors who didn't want, everything, every locations. So I worked every area of the movie on my days off. I'm picking up actors who are arriving at the plane. Mark Hamill, I'm driving him in. He's going, what are you doing picking me up? Welcome to our set, Mr. Hamill. I'll be your second unit set PA today. I'll be driving you to your room. And so what happened was, John was very smart. There's separation of church and state kind of between the cast and crew on most movies. The cast is over here and the crew is over there. The cast gets to eat, then the crew gets, and I've always hated that. And so does John. But he saw by using a member of the cast as making him a part of the crew, it made us one big family. Yeah. Right? So every night we all went out to dinner together. Every night we all went to the bar together. Every night we all hung out together. On weekends we hung, so it was like a family. And it made for just a great, great shoot. So at the end, when we got back to Hollywood, I go up to John and his house for dinner one night, and he goes, "So, you want to be a producer?" And I said, "Well, I was thinking about it." And an actor gets to come in later than everyone else, and he gets to leave earlier than everyone else. And no one ever tells him about all the fires that are going on all around. I said, "It's the easiest job in the movie. I think I'll just be an actor."
Well, wow! That's a hell of a resume you had, though, with all the different things you worked on the film set. All those different jobs.
I'll tell you, I did everything on that movie too. Absolutely everything. I even cooked. But I did a movie with Orson Welles, and I learned how to do all that stuff. So
yeah,
I kind of knew how to do that anyway.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
That's quite something.
But
yeah.
that was a trip. On the last movie I did with John, The Ghosts of Mars, I played a part that comes in. I'm the engineer of the train. He brings the heroes in at the beginning and takes them out at the end. So I'm only at the beginning and the end. But he hired me for the whole movie, so all that dead time I have down there, John said, I want you on the set because he likes the way I deal with everybody on the set. So he said, I want you on the set. I'm going to give you this camera. So he gave me this camera, and I shot the behind the scenes for the entire movie. And it was an absolute blast. I had a great time. And I'm sure I got stuff that nobody gets to get because I had access to everything being an actor, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I could walk into Ice Cube's trailer anytime I wanted. And I did. Very embarrassing sometimes, but I did.
Yeah. Access all areas. Yeah.
And I had a great time on that movie. And they let me they didn't let me edit. I wanted to learn how to edit. So I thought this would be great. I shoot all this and then I'll put together the making of. But Sony took it all away from me. They took 36 hours of footage that I had away from me at the end of the thing and made 2 documentaries. So I actually have credit on IMDb for being a cinematographer a couple of times.
Yeah.
Both of them for Ghosts of Mars.
Yeah, yeah. Amazing. So what bring up to date here, Peter? What are you any projects you can tell us about that you're working on currently?
Well, I just finished, in fact, I just cut the beard off here not long ago. The most exciting thing is Deadwood. We're redoing Deadwood again. And it's a 2-hour movie for HBO. And it's coming out in the spring. Very excited about that. And I have a whole new look in that show. It's 10 years later on Deadwood, and all the cast is back together. And it was a love fest shooting that. It was just so great. That's one of the projects that I have coming up. I also have a recurring role on an FX show called Baskets, starring Louis Anderson and Zach Galifianakis. Louis Anderson plays a woman, and I play his older brother, and that's called Baskets on FX. And then I just finished another movie that that I have one of the lead roles in called The Ascent, and it's an exorcist movie. I play a priest, and there's a wonderful Brit actor playing the lead too. What's his name? Gosh, it's dark, but I guess all exorcist movies are dark.
Oh yeah, you can't really do a comedy with that kind of topic, Talking about a 1970s film.
Robert Kaczynski, that's who he is. He's a Brit. You know Robert Kaczynski?
Name rings a bell. Name rings a bell.
Yeah, I think he was in The Hobbit. I'm not sure, but he was on a TV series over in England. But he's done a lot of stuff. EastEnders, remember that?
Oh yeah. That's still going. Yeah.
He played Sean on that.
That's still running. That. Yeah.
He did 254 episodes of that.
Blimey.
EastEnders. Geez, that's a lot.
That's an awful lot. Then again, they were doing because it's a soap opera. They're doing about 3 or 4 of those a week, shooting them back to back.
Oh yeah, okay. He did it from 2006 to 2009.
Mm.
Yeah, he's a very, very, very fun actor to work with. I enjoyed him a lot. Anyway, The Ascent, you can look for that. So those are the 3 things that are out there. And I'm waiting for my next gig. So what do you got?
I'll have a word with my people, and they'll get in touch with your people. And
well, have my people send me over to your people, because I love it over there in England. I had such a great time.
When was the last time you were there? Was the last time you were there was for the film you mentioned earlier?
Yeah, Jurassic World.
Jurassic World, yeah.
Yeah, and my friend David Warner, who plays the commander in Mary Poppins, he's fabulous in it. He and I had dinner together. He just wrapped the show, and he was so excited about it. And I got to see it here at the Academy here. And man, what a great movie that is. I'd forgotten how fabulous that was. I've seen it twice, actually. It's really a great movie. You get a chance to see it.
Thank you, Peter, so much for joining me on the Incredible Hulk podcast. It's been really nice speaking with you.
My pleasure, and hi to everybody on the other side of the pond.
Yeah. They're on both sides of the pond that listen to this as well, so, yeah.
Oh, good.
Brilliant. Thank you guys for listening as well. We'll see you soon on the Incredible Hulk podcast. Until then, take care.